Good morning, this is Jeanne. While everybody's kind of logging in and, thinking up their questions and getting them typed into the box, I want to demonstrate a new feature on Fishbowl. And this is something I've had clients ask for over a decade, and that is the ability to approve purchase orders based upon the grand total dollar value of the PO. So in order to set that, and they so far Fishbowl's like set out little pieces of it in different releases, but they didn't like release it all at once. And I haven't heard much fanfare about it. So I thought I would go through what's involved in setting that feature up and using it. So the first thing we do is we go to Purchasing Purchase Order, and we come to Tools, Module Options, and we turn that feature on. So we're now going to require approval for orders exceeding $5,000. You can make this any number you want. I have a client who made it 0 because he wanted to approve every order. Okay. Then I would also have you notice that we have a new status here for the purchase order of pending approval. And then I believe down here we have a pending approval before it gets issued. And then over here under setup, I've set up a user to be my approver. So that would be my PO APP. Okay. And he belongs to, so he has his cell phone number here set up, initials. And now I'm going to go and set up the user group for all of my purchasing approvers. So that user group is now going to be approved purchase orders. Because those of you who know me, you know that I like to have my critical functions for permissions to have their own user group so I can quickly and easily identify who has that approval. So I'm going to save that. Here under purchase order, in order to approve purchase orders, we purchase order approvals, and we check the box. Okay, save. And then now we're going to log out and log back in as our approver. Oh, I think our approver needs a few more rights. Hang on a second. Yeah, we don't have anybody belonging to this group yet, so you better do that. And then this guy better have, so do that. And now I'm going to go to the individual user, and I'm going to give him the ability to do purchasing. And now we're going to log in as our purchasing approver. So I'm going to save that. I've saved my user permissions. I've saved my module options. I've got the cell phone in there. So now I'm going to file, and I'm going to log out as admin, and I'm going to log in as PO approver. Okay. And my user's missing an email, so info@terabyte.com. And actually, I don't want to log in as my approver yet. I want to log in as somebody else. Because if I log in as the approver, then it's not going to stop me about approving. So let's see. Who else do I have? So let me just get a different user set up so I can log in as them. So I'm going to come back out here, and then I'm going to log out and log in as Dave and create a purchase order. And Dave is not someone who can approve purchase orders. So we're going to log in as Dave. And Dave is going to come over here to purchasing. And we're going to create a new purchase order. And let's go for good old Brett's Bicycles. And then let's go for BB. Let's go for silicone rubber. That's fine. And I'm going to buy 800 of these. That. Okay, so I got a $20,000 purchase order here. Okay, I'm now going to save it. Okay, and when I go to issue it, I'm expecting it to tell me it needs approval. Oh dear, did I give Dave approval purchases? All right, so now I'm going to exit and I'm going to come back. Oops, I'm going to come back in as my PO approver. And my PO approver is going to be able to approve that $20,000 purchase order. So he's going to come in here to purchasing. And it was my PO dated today, I would hope. I somehow really managed not to. Well, I've botched that somehow. Do we have a question yet? No.
Yes, we do, actually. It's from Connie Barker. She asked, where do I find setup instructions for the PO approver?
Okay, the instructions would probably be up here under the wiki. Okay, Fishbowl's got a pretty robust user's manual and wiki. And to set up the approver, though, all you have to do is give them permission to be approvers, which would be here under the under setup user, and we would assign the user to the user group approve purchase orders or whatever user group that you so choose to have in your system. So file, and I'm going to log out and come back in as admin so I can answer any other questions we have today. So how's everybody on this wonderful September day?
Okay, while they let us know.
Send me little emojis or something?
Well, they can tell us in the chat. So if they want to share how their day is going so far, they can enter that there. I do also have a question for you. It's from Amber. Amber, I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. So the question is, what add-on do we need to purchase for the PO approval tool? Also, can we establish an approval matrix?
Okay, you do not have to purchase any add-on for the approval tool. The approval tool is now a standard feature of Fishbowl. And what do we mean by approval matrix?
Amber?
Okay, sorry. So we have kind of, given the category of spend, it may need to go to operations, it may need to go to various departments. We have for different dollar values, different people need to be included in the approval. Can we have something a little bit more robust for approvals, or is it just a one-person approval?
Amber, I have been waiting 10 years for this feature. They just released it in the last couple of months. I am sure that they would love to take your, ideas for an enhancement, so you can there's a whole support mechanism with Fishbowl to give them new ideas, but I'm just happy to have what we've got.
Yeah.
I also do want to mention, since you did say suggestions for Fishbowl, we have one of our Fishbowl partners here, Kobe. Quick shout out to him. So Kobe can probably be all ears for any suggestions there.
Aha, so we have a Fishbowl employee in attendance who can hear your requests. That's perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, sorry about that. Let's see. I think if that's the only question Amber had, does anyone else have any questions? Please ask away. We've so far have only 2. And
Well, I just brought the purchasing matrix, the whole purchasing approval up because it's a fabulous feature that we've been waiting for a long time. And I don't feel as though Fishbowl's done a really good job of saying, it's here, it's here. So that's why I wanted to spotlight it while everyone had a chance. But this is all about your problems, your issues, your questions about your files. So ask away. This does not have to be about the purchasing approval feature.
In the meantime, I'll try to read this without stuttering. Okay, my question may be for another webinar. I would like to know how data flows from a sales order that has been closed into the QuickBooks income statement, i.e. applied or service inventory adjustments, labor applied, a negative number. So I think, oh, there she is. Go ahead and repeat your question.
You did just fine. There are entries on the income statement, a detailed income statement in QuickBooks, and I don't know where those numbers are coming from Fishbowl. We're a manufacturer, so we have materials, we have labor costs into 2 different categories. One is direct labor, and then the other is overhead. So in our detailed income statement, in the COGS section, we have things like applied overhead, service, inventory adjustments, and then labor applied, which is a negative number. And I don't know where those numbers come from. I'd like to see a direct flow of the information.
So this is where so in general, we come here and we have let's start with our home. So this line right here is very straightforward. This is the sales order. When I ship against the sales order, I get 2 entries to QuickBooks. I get an invoice recording the sale amount, and I have a journal entry recording the cost of goods sold over here. On purchasing, I pretty much have the same thing. The purchase order is a holding document, and once I receive, I now get a bill into QuickBooks. With a second step, so we can do a 3-part match. So what you are seeing is what's coming through on the manufacturing order. Okay, so when I have a bill of materials, so I'm going to set this up, just go to the default mapping. And so what I have here, when I create an overhead type part, and I add it to my bill of materials, and it's part of my manufacturing order, and the overhead and labor work the same way. They are both absorption accounts. So they are designed to take dollars out of the P&L and put them into inventory, increasing the value of inventory. Okay, so that's why you get the negatives in the P&L with respect to labor and overhead. We also can have non-inventory parts and service parts as part of that bill of materials, recipe, manufacturing order, and they are doing the same thing. They're pulling dollars out of the profit and loss and putting them on the balance sheet as part of the cost of the product. So to demonstrate that, I'm going to go to my favorite reports, and right here, the one that would work is the So I managed to have a, there we go. There they are. So when I build my manufacturing order, I get a debit to the inventory asset, and I'm going to get credits to all the component inventory accounts. And if I had labor and overhead, I would also have credits to labor and overhead accounts. And this flows into this is all via journal entry into QuickBooks. If you only have one inventory asset account, it will not show this detail. It will net the dollars to and from the inventory asset account because that's what QuickBooks requires. It does not want you making a journal entry in and out of the same account for the same dollar amount on the same transaction coming from a third party. I can physically do it with my fingers on a journal entry, but it doesn't let people using the SDK or API do that. So this is where those numbers are coming from. Now, the other thing you're saying was inventory adjustments and scrap. Those are coming from materials inventory screen. And anytime we go through and we cycle count, we add new inventory, or we scrap inventory, you're going to get a journal entry recording that transaction over in QuickBooks. Have I answered the question?
Yes, you have. Thank you. Thank you, Jeanne. That's been a mystery to me for a while, so I appreciate the response.
Okay, so we also have a couple of documents to help you. One of the documents is how QuickBooks and Fishbowl work together. Which QuickBooks do you have?
It's Enterprise
QuickBooks Desktop.
19.0.
That's fine. I just need to know whether or not you've got a desktop product or a QuickBooks Online product because the integration between Fishbowl and each of those QuickBooks is different.
Desktop.
To support the QBO folks, I also have done a in-dive video of the differences in integration between Fishbowl and QuickBooks Desktop versus QuickBooks Fishbowl and QuickBooks Online.
I will link both those resources in the chat for you.
Can you email those to me? Unfortunately, I have to leave at 10:30. I have to leave this webinar at 10:30. If you could email that to me, I really would appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. We'll do that too.
Thank you.
Okay. So, are we ready for another one?
Yes, we are. And this one is from Jeff. I'm going to go ahead and unmute him. Jeff, you're muted on your end. So,
Good morning, Jeff.
Hey,
At least
Jeanne.
morning on my time zone.
Yeah, it's morning for me too. Hey, I'm trying to figure out how I can export a data set to CSV that doesn't have like all the formatting in it. So like I can get, a report and say, hey, send this to CSV, but it puts a bunch of non-parsable garbage in it. I'm looking for just the, the field names across the top and then just, CSV data.
Okay, so the reports themselves, I mean, my reports that we've designed under this, and you'll hear more about it, commercial break, are all designed to go straight to CSV with no formatting, et cetera, and so on. So you can pivot table your heart's desires. Most of the Fishbowl reports are not designed that way. They are designed to be pretty, as opposed to being designed to go to Excel. So, I have these subtotals here that are in the same column as my raw data transaction dollar, et cetera, and so on. So to get your stuff to CSV, you're either going to want to find, you want to check out the existing standard exports. All of my controller toolbox will take you to CSV, but depending upon your skills, Fishbowl is completely compliant with an ODBC driver, and you can set up ODBC so that you can write queries and pull the data out of the database. If that's above your skill set, I have people who will pull data out of the database. I have people who will create dashboards, and I will have people who do custom reports.
Is
that
there?
all helpful?
Yeah. You know, I was basically looking for something that I could do, if possible, inside of Fishbowl, and then have users run on demand. Is it possible to do that with their data view? They seem to have like a little kind of data view query builder type of deal in there. Can you take the results from that and then send those out to CSV?
I believe so, but we're getting in a little over my head, because when we get to, because you know, the initials after my name are CPA, but I do have a lot of people who are, you know, are programmers and more geeky type people. So I believe you can create a query here and have something that goes to CSV, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay.
But you know, Fishbowl support can help you with those queries. If you're not where you need to be, I certainly have the team that can be helpful.
All right. Sounds good.
Okay. Next.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and skip a couple of people here. Sorry, Connie. Sorry, Andrea. Because I think Betty had mentioned she's going to leave at 10:30 and she has one last question. So let's go back to her real quick.
Okay.
Our inventory is shown at based on averages in Fishbowl. And if we wanted to, can we change that to LIFO? And if so, how do we do that? Or is that like a humongous
Okay, so here's the
exercise? Yeah.
All right, so at any given point in time, you know, when you first set up your Fishbowl database, somebody went in and the first question they were asked, I think, other than what do you want to name this database, is what costing method are we going to use? Okay. So this is the costing method you chose, and this is the costing method that Fishbowl has been using to calculate cost of goods sold, et cetera, and so on. If you want to switch to a different costing method, Fishbowl can do it, which is nice because originally there was no way to change your costing method other than to start a new file. I'm not 100% up to speed at what they can change from and to, but I've had several clients recently that did change from standard to average, et cetera, and so on. So they can make that change for you, and I do not know if they charge money for that. But once that's changed, then you need to balance out your inventory and what have you before you move forward, okay? But I would make sure that you really are doing average, because here under reports, we have for inventory, the FIFO LIFO value of inventory is the hardest to calculate because it's based upon the different layers that are in stock right this minute. This particular report, asset valuation by account, gives you all of your different costing methods and what the value would be depending on the costing method, as opposed to some of these down here where I'm doing inventory valuation summary. This puppy will only let me do it on average cost or standard cost, leaving the LIFO FIFO valuation kind of out in the cold. But we have modified some of these so that you do get a nice LIFO cost as well in this format. So does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. And is it time for Chris? Now we have invited one of my clients, Chris Funk from Hodo Foods, because he's had some of the most interesting challenges that he has solved using the controller's toolbox. So Stephanie, I'm going to turn this over to you and you can move forward. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We do have a few more questions. I'm so happy we're getting as many questions as we are. We will return to those questions after Chris's presentation. So Jeanne had mentioned he is one of our clients, and we're excited that he's here. Chris, I'm going to make you the presenter now.
All right.
Okay.
Can you guys see my screen all right?
Yes, we see your screen. Real quick,
Okay.
So Chris is going to talk about the controls toolbox. If you've been with us, you probably have seen this on our website or via email, or even Jeanne has mentioned it. And we're bringing this up because we've also revamped the controls toolbox. It's completely updated, has an entirely new look to it, also new features. And Chris is one of the avid users of the controls toolbox, and he's going to share his experience with how he's used it, how it's helped him. But one note, he is currently on the older version of it. And so if you see this and you're impressed, just be excited because the newer version is even better. So go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for the introduction. So just to give you a little background of how long we've been using Fishbowl. We've used Fishbowl since 2018, and we're on average costing. We make tofu products, and we've made a lot. I've been with the company Hodo Foods using Fishbowl for about the last 2 years now. And I've had the pleasure to work with Jeanne and the Terabyte team for about the last year. And in that year, we've made significant advancements in terms of scaling our business and utilizing all the functionality that Fishbowl has to offer. But you know, in the last, I'd say 6 to 7 months, I finally got around to having the time to explore and purchase the controllers toolbox. And I must say, it's the best $500 I've probably spent with my time with this company. There are a handful of reports in the controllers toolbox that I use frequently, especially at month end, and I'd just like to go over the highlights of some of those. And I just want to emphasize that the payback that you will have on these reports is almost immediate. We've had some unexpected emergencies during some of our month ends, and these reports have saved me several hours of having to reconcile and find needles in the haystack. So I'd just like to highlight some of these reports and show you how I'm using them at the end of the month. The first report is the receiving inventory by GL. So this report is basically going to show you all of the receipts. You can run it by transaction date. You can also run it by posting date. So I'm going to pull up our, give me a sec here, and I'm going to pull up our receiving inventory report from a month where we had received some items with a reconciled date in 2028. So we had fat fingered the receipt. And one way you can find the discrepancy is in QuickBooks, right? You open up your balance sheet to basically out to infinity, and then you just scour through your general ledger to see if you can find that particular receipt. Or you can run that receiving detail report, and let me pull it up. So here's the receiving detail report for the month of August, and here you've got your date received, and you've got this bill date. So this is basically the date that you're using to reconcile the purchase order. And for instance, here you can see, right, I'm just filtering on the bill date that doesn't fall into August. And just literally by running this report, within 2 minutes, I was able to find the receipt that we had fat fingered out into the future. I recoded the date on that receipt and was able to proceed with month-end close. So the receiving reports in Fishbowl are nice, but the format of them aren't as clean and easy to summarize and manage like the report out of like the report from the controller's toolbox. So again, that's the receiving inventory by GL, and that's what I'm currently using that report for. There was another during the same month, oh excuse me, in July, we had an issue with one of our accounts that had a mapping issue. So it wasn't allowing me to run our daily export of transactions from Fishbowl over to QuickBooks. Gave Fishbowl support a call. They helped us on the back end with the account mapping issue. They basically broke the server chain and reconnected it. Advised to us, we can proceed with business as normal. This was around the beginning of July. So we exported transactions daily like we normally do. And about 7 or 8 days later, after looking at my P&L, I noticed that all of the transactions, all of the parts and products in Fishbowl had defaulted and lost their account mapping. Okay, so if we were to look, let's say in our part module right now, and this is a bagged product, this is a WIP item. So everything, the income account had defaulted just to a general revenue account. The the inventory and the inventory adjustment and COGS accounts had all defaulted. So I was in quite a pickle in the middle of the month trying to figure out how I needed to reclass all this information. And thanks to the export sales transaction report, once I reestablished the part and product mapping for all of the items, you can run this report and it will show you in theory where everything should be charged, given all the transactions that have completed during that time. So I was able to use that, and I'll show you what that report looks like once it's exported here. So this is just a sample of what the report looks like. I ran it for a portion of the month here. And you can see that once you reestablish all your part and product mapping in Fishbowl, you can basically simulate the transactions given the mapping that you've updated, and you can find out exactly where everything needs to be charged. So I was able to then, once I had a nice summary of all the transactions and where they should have been charged, I was able to reclass everything from those general accounts to the appropriate account. And then we could look at our P&L by value stream, we could look at it by customer, and we could truly analyze the profitability and the margins of each account and customer. So this is a wonderful wonderful report. Before I learned how to use this report, I think I was spending 7 or 8 hours trying to make sense of all the transactions and find out where they needed to go. After you remap everything, you run this report, you pivot it, and within 10 minutes, you know where everything should have been charged to. So this report is a major time saver and just an amazing report. That's the export sales transaction report. Another beautiful report in the controller's toolbox is this export work order transactions. So in your company, if you guys make a particular product, but let's say you have 2 different production lines, and each of those production lines can run that product, but that the performance of that product is really driven by which line it's run on. In the canned reports in Fishbowl, you can't run a report by recipe. You can only run it by part. But this report allows you to do just that, right? So you can look at, let me show you an example here in our bill of materials. So this is a product that we make. We make tofu. This is a cubed tofu product. And we just purchased a larger, more powerful production line. So we have a new recipe for that same product. And what happened was when I had set up the recipe, I made a mistake. I had inflated the labor and overhead time it takes to make each unit by a factor of 10x. So here I had an inflated COGS value for a handful of work orders that was vastly overstated and inhibited our ability, again, to just analyze margin and profitability. But using this export work order transaction report, I can run this report specifically based off of the recipe. So I can see which work orders did we create that part where we use this recipe. And from there, I was then able to, let's see, knowing what the unit cost should have been and what the actual entries were for those particular work orders with that recipe, I was able to put in the journal entry to reduce my COGS value and get the correct cost dialed in on our our financials. So those are the 3 reports that I use very often, and they've saved me hours of time. And I mean, you know, you just do the math. You know, if you're making, say, $100 an hour, you're easily going to get 5 hours of time savings in a month if you have issues like some of the ones that I've mentioned before. You can also use these reports to produce other types of reports that the canned reports out of Fishbowl don't really have right now. And I've just started putting one together, but I want to show this to you now. So using that same work order report, you can also use this to produce a usage variance report. So if you want, like I just ran it wide open for the month, and I was looking at a new item that we just started producing this week, and I'm able to see basically what our target quantity should be given what's on the recipe and what we actually used. And from that, right, I can compute a usage variance. So, you know, I'm still in the process of discovering all the power that these the reports out of the controller's toolbox have. But I think primarily it's really the formatting. The way that Jeanne has created these reports and the way that they format makes it really nicely just to export the data and pivot it, or just build in a simple formula, right, where you're comparing the target quantity versus the used, and you're incorporating the total value and coming up with a usage variance in terms of quantity and dollars. But you know, I get really excited when Jeanne explains to me how these reports can be used for various different tasks, and just the amount of time savings and the reporting ability has just been, it's been amazing. So highly recommend the controller's toolbox if you don't already have it. Amazing value, amazing return on your dollar, and will save you a lot of time.
So what's new with the Controllers Toolbox? A new standardized look. As you can see, there's some color shown here that we've added. There's extra column and filters, an entirely new payments report. And Jeanne also did show some of the reports during our webinar. But I actually want to maybe highlight a question that could also show more about the Controllers Toolbox from Connie. All right, Connie, go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, no, I was curious about the work order report you showed at the beginning, and then I realized that it was in this controller's toolbox. So, and I don't have that. So my next question was, where do I get that from? So Stephanie had mentioned that I can go onto the website and purchase that. So it looks like I'm going to have to do that, because that is, I definitely need that. But can I ask you a different question though?
Sure.
So, and this may even be a controller's toolbox question, but I find that my inventory between QuickBooks and Fishbowl keep going out of balance. And I have gone through line by line trying to figure out the activity between Fishbowl and QuickBooks. It's very painful. And last month it was out by over $200,000, and I just cannot for the life of me figure out what is happening.
Okay. So I have written a document called the Top 10 Reasons Fishbowl and QuickBooks Don't Balance. Okay. And the first place I would start with that is, what report are we trying to balance to? Okay. So because although Fishbowl has a cost history report, they haven't convinced me it works all the time. So what I have advised all my clients to do is to come here to schedule, and to schedule a valuation report to run after hours every night, so that you have your point in time inventory. Because waiting 2 or 3 days, you will get, most reports, you will get a different answer than if you'd run it the night that you're trying to tie to. So we run this every night. We save it to CSV. So we have the inventory valuation at any given date. Okay. Other highly likely causes of being out of balance, besides mapping, is happens over here in receiving. So I have actually pulled in here and had been able to pull up a list of reconciled items. So if I reconcile my receipt before I physically get the goods, I've put dollars into QuickBooks that I do not have in Fishbowl. So that's one problem that happens on this screen.
Okay.
The other problem that happens on this screen is I have this in my Fishbowl as of, not the scheduled date, as of 24/23/20. Granted, this is a demo database, which is why it's awful like that. But when I come here to reconcile it, so what happened with QuickBooks Desktop is when we receive these goods, Fishbowl sent over an item receipt as of April 23rd, okay? And then when I come over here and I hit reconcile, if I put any other number here other than the 423, I have moved my dollars and made Fishbowl and QuickBooks out of sync, okay? And Fishbowl was nice enough to put this column right here on this screen so it'd be easy for me and my clients and everybody else to see what the actual receive date is, okay?
Okay.
So I put in today's date. I'm going to move those dollars from 2020 to 2021. Not what you want happen. And I call that phenomena dancing dollars.
Right.
So that, and one of the reasons that receiving transaction detail report was created was so I could see what the bill date was versus the date we actually received it, so I could quantify how much in the way of dancing dollars I had running around there. It also is a great use for folks who have an international parent and your parent expects you to have the exact same payables on the books as, you know, they've got a receivable, in which case you have to violate my rule. So at least with the transaction detail receiving report, you can quantify that and you have that as an adjusting item on a spreadsheet reconciliation.
So in the past, like with this one that's out by 200,000, I've spent hours and hours and hours going through line by line. Can you recommend a report to run to help me figure out, other than this, you know, like this, you're saying, like going forward, doing it every day works, but it was at the end of the month, so I have to go through every transaction.
Every day.
Sorry?
What I showed you initially was saving the inventory value at any given date as the right report to be reconciling to.
Yeah.
But I can use and I'm beginning to sound like a broken record, I can use my controller toolbox reports to tie out the activity between Fishbowl and QuickBooks, okay? So I call the core four, the purchase, the sales, the work orders, and inventory adjustments. And I can, you know, do this by date range, and I can, you know, can narrow down, you know, if I'm off for the month, then I can run the reports on both the Fishbowl and QuickBooks side. I'm off for the week, I can narrow it down to what day it happened.
Okay, perfect. So that's, again, back to this toolbox that I desperately need.
And it exists because as an accountant, as a CPA, as a former CFO and controller, none of the standard reports in Fishbowl let me get where I needed to go.
Yeah.
So Fishbowl's got this lovely export summary report, which frankly is what, you know, was the starting place for our reports. But the big difference here is there is no concept of account coding. So, you know, when I purchase something on these reports, I can't tell if I purchased it and it went to inventory or I purchased it and it went to shipping supplies, which formed the birth of the controller's toolbox. So I could be able to segregate those things out, and if I've got a mapping problem, once I fix my mapping problem, I can rerun these reports to find out what things should have been. So, and I feel embarrassed because I feel like we're beating the controller's toolbox a lot.
That's fantastic. Thank you very much for your help.
Okay. So,
thank you,
so
Connie.
Luke is somebody who's the answer is not the controller's toolbox.
Yes. But one last.
I have a public service announcement first. Colby, my rep at Fishbowl, has chimed into the question into the chat box that if you want to change your costing algorithm, your costing method, that you can contact Fishbowl support, and it is a free service. Okay.
Correct. Thank you, Kobe. And then one last note about the controls toolbox. I know Connie said she wants to get that for herself. I've linked the website page of where you can not control it, but where you can purchase the controls toolbox. So it's in the chat, everybody. Okay, so then let's go ahead and move on to Andrea. She has her question, and she is now unmuted. Go ahead.
Good morning, Andrea.
Hi, good morning. I was just wondering, we have to pull down bill of materials frequently. And I was used to a system before where we could just do a query and it would pull everything. In here in Fishbowl, the only thing I've found so far to be able to do is to pull them one by one and save them as an Excel file. Is there a way to pull down multiple bombs?
Okay, so the commercial that didn't happen today. So first of all, we can always export out the entire bill of materials file. Okay.
Oh.
And it's a little scary because it's a double headered file in that, the first line of data controls the header and the next line of data controls the individual requirements. So it takes somebody with a geeky outlook and what have you to truly make good use of this. What we don't have ready for you is I've been working with Better Idea Group, and we have come out with a data warehouse for pulling all of the bill of materials data out, so you can do cost roll-ups, et cetera, and so on, all the way down to the bottom level. And they were going to be our alternate presenter today, but they're going to present next month because they didn't get back to us in time. But it is doable, and we do have the capacities to do that. There is not a selection standard within Fishbowl to say, give me bombs 1 through 20 and export them. But these are this is your free tool. Okay. And then, we have a whole process because especially folks who have got, multi-level bills of materials that need to figure out what their costs and what have you are. That's what our other toolbox or a bill of materials extracts about.
So is that available, or that's coming to be available?
No, it's available. They just didn't get to present today because they were slow.
Okay.
I will also link that for you.
Okay. Is that within the controller toolbox or something different?
No, it's a separate functionality.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. Okay.
But they designed it for Fishbowl, and we've had a lot of practice with it. We've deployed it with several different clients now, and we used to have a lot more we could do with the bombs and the bills of materials when Fishbowl was on what was the name of it? On the prior SQL database structure. This database, we're missing a magic command in our reports. So there we have an issue of it doesn't do recursive. So it needs a program to get all the way down to the bottom of the bill of materials structure. which is what we've created with Better Idea Group.
Okay,
Okay.
great, thanks.
Okay, awesome. So now we have Barbara. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you. And you are self-muted, so please unmute yourself. I guess in the meantime, I'll ask her question since she wrote it down here. Hi, Jeanne. How can I set up a monitor section to see what part is running low, yellow zone, red zone, when is out as well?
Okay.
One more. Oh, okay. Go ahead. Do that one first.
So setting up the monitor. We go here to Materials, Monitor, okay? And then we choose which parts we want to be able to watch closely. And this can be based upon a company-wide approach, or it can be based upon individual location groups, a location group being defined as a separate warehouse. So if I have a location group in, you know, Costa Rica and another one in New York, I can say I want to look at the product I need for New York. I want to look at the product I need for Costa Rica, what have you. So right now I'm just going to say company-wide. And then I'm going to say, I want this to go yellow/red. I want this to go yellow when I'm down to this many units, and I want this to go red when I'm at or below this number of units for that part. And then it's here on the monitor, and you just need to log in and take a look. I hope that answers the question.
Barbara, you're still muted. I'm going to go ahead and we're going to say yes, that answers your question, and move on to your next question, which is some of our parts have very low cost as 00. I'm so sorry, I can't read that. Hold on one sec.
0.000343.
There you go.
So,
she mentioned her mic is not working. Okay, so she's chatting with us.
Let's just go over here to our generalized reports module. So over here in the reports module, we get to control our decimal places based upon module options. So here under other, we have a choice as to how many decimal places we want to see. So on selling price, 2 always kind of works, but over here on cost with decimal place, I can have up to 5 decimal places for the cost. Default so that I can see it. The reason that the part in question that's 0.0043 is coming up as 0 is it doesn't round up to a penny. It rounds down to 0. And so it just, because of the lack of decimal places on your report, it just appears to be 0, but rest assured the system is actually using it as 0.0043. Okay. All right, so I think that was a thank you, it was helpful moment.
Yep, that's what she said. Awesome. Okay, so I think those are all the questions we have so far. If anyone else has any questions, please ask away.
Yeah, I've scheduled myself to stay here for another half hour. So
right.
If you all have become Fishbowl experts and you have nothing you're curious about, you know, then I guess I can get a lunch early.
Okay, guys. Well, I actually do have a poll to launch because I'm a salesperson here, not a very good one, but I would like to know if any of you are interested in the controller's toolbox. If yes, please put yes, and I will contact you. If no, you don't like making your life easier, and you're going to select that. Okay. And if you already have a control toolbox, that's also nice to know. Jeff and Barbara, you guys.
We have sent to everybody who is an existing package, we have sent out at least one email so far inviting you to download the current version, and we will be sending out more.
Yep, more reminders.
And I do want to show you a couple of things that we do have in the works. So for those of you who've watched some of my blogs and videos, you know that, you know, I am much more extensive into the chart of accounts and what we can do to do that. And then I have different workarounds based upon payment types and different accounts and different parts in Fishbowl. So what I'm trying to come up with here is a comprehensive sample chart of accounts that can be imported to both QBO and QBD, and what the Fishbowl related item and why we'd be using this. So this has not been posted yet, but will be posted as a free download CSV file on the website. Okay. Thank you very much for viewing this video. And we at Terabyte Solutions are a full service Fishbowl support firm. So we would like to help you with your Fishbowl issues. Give us a ring at 949-645-1019 and we will be happy to help. Thank you very much. Bye.